Kia ora, and welcome to our webinar today, which will cover the latest immigration updates and how they impact your business. And we're really pleased to be joined by June Ranson, the CE of Woburn International. I'm Patrick McKibben, and I'm the CEO of the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce. Look, as I said, we're really pleased today to welcome June Ranson from Woburn International. June is a member of the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce and has been for many years. She's also a member of our board and is a great supporter of the work that the Chamber does for local businesses in the Hutt Valley. June is the CEO of Woburn International, who are a licensed immigration advisor. She is also chairman of the New Zealand Association for Migration and Investment. June set up Woburn International in 1991 and has become one of New Zealand's leading specialists in immigration, assisting employers to gain and retain skilled staff, working with migrants to maintain a lawful presence in New Zealand, working with offshore entrepreneurs to invest their skills and funds into New Zealand businesses, and working with investors to grow New Zealand's economy. She also provides settlement support, home finding and assimilation into New Zealand society. She became the chairperson of the NZAMI in 2015 and is a leading professional, which is a leading professional association for immigration practitioners and has been since 1989. June works closely with the government, Immigration New Zealand and Immigration Advisors Authority. Key objective of her work is to ensure a fair and natural justice is applied by the government, with a commitment to playing a major role in building the professionalism of the immigration industry in New Zealand. I'll now hand over to June to talk about the latest immigration changes. Thank you, June.
Thank you, Patrick, for that introduction. And hello, everybody. Well, this newly announced 2021 residence visa is absolutely brilliant. And some background as to why. Now, the government has grasped the opportunity with the arrival of COVID to start looking at the immigration reset for migrant eligibility in New Zealand. Look, this did need to happen, but it's just taken forever. But at least this what has now been introduced is going something towards this reset. So this new announcement, which is a one-off, it's estimated to give 165,000 people, including their partners and dependents, a new opportunity for New Zealand residents. Another reason this has come about, the government's realised that we do not have enough people in New Zealand to handle all the necessary skills needed, and also jobs that New Zealanders do not want to do. So they finally have listened to you employers. It's taken a long time, but they have listened. We were also facing the loss of skilled migrants to Australia. The Australians certainly made good use of when we had the bubble, because they were sending their headhunters across and capturing good people to go to Australia. So the government needed to do something to help these migrants here in this country feel wanted. Now, the new pathway is to give a quick and streamlined pathway to residence for those in New Zealand who have made contributions to the country during these unprecedented times, because it is the migrants who've really been keeping things going, and it needed to have this recognition. So how will it help the migrants? And I'm looking here also with regard to employers, because you employers, you have been struggling to really help your migrant workers because they've been terribly unsettled. And now these changes are giving many migrant workers some certainty about their status in New Zealand. And Immigration New Zealand have had huge backlogs. This is what the migrants have been dealing with. The migrants have been, those that qualified have been actually able to lodge residence applications if they met requirements. But these huge backlogs of the skilled migrant residence application, which have been in their pipeline, there's been 11,415 since November 2019. And these folk had received invitations to proceed, but have been waiting almost 2 years. Quite demoralising. These migrants have been putting their lives on hold, waiting the outcome. Then we've got those migrants who had lodged the first stage of this skilled migrant category, and they had lodged what is known as an expression of interest. Now, there are 10,000 of those sitting there, and they're actually in the first stage waiting selection, but the selections of these applications are now suspended due to COVID. Be aware that before COVID, the government had issues with the volumes and applications, and hence the need for the reset plan. But the opening up of that first stage is not going to happen for a long time. Immigration can't cope with it. Now, do remember, the migrants have also paid government fees for these processing, and this has involved thousands of dollars. So with this new pathway, it's like a flame has been lit for them. It's going to be a really great relief for as many of the people eligible for this, and they may never have had this eligibility pathway to residence. So for employers, they're going to be able to retain as many staff without the constant need for renewing visas, which has been a pain for you, I know. And it will give employers a more stable workforce and with less mental problems that these poor migrants have been subjected to. Many of these migrants who have been suffering, I just want to make you aware of this, have been too scared to seek help from a doctor. So they have suffered in silence. And the reason they didn't go to a doctor, they were concerned that it might show up on their medicals. How inhumane is that? So who is going to be eligible? Well, it is estimated around 110,000 onshore work visa holders will be eligible, and around 165,000 people in total when the partners and the dependents are already in New Zealand. Now, the applicants must have held or applied for one of the 14 eligible visa types on the 29th of September 2021 at the time of application. Now, a worker must have been in New Zealand on the 29th of September 2021 unless they have been brought in as a long-term critical worker for 6 months or more before 31 July 2022. Now, we are aware that some people may have been caught in going over to Australia, but more about that later. So these folk need to have held one of these following visas. And as you will see, there are quite a lot of temporary visas that have been in the pipeline. So we've got the post-study work visa. These are the students who graduated and have had the opportunity to go out and find and try out jobs which could be applicable to what they've been studying. Then you've got the talent visa, which is a work to residence, and that's been obtained through accredited employer. The essential skills work visa, that's the one that has to constantly be renewed depending on how long the initial visa was issued. Then we have the religious worker, another talent visa, which was relating to the people who are specialising in arts, culture and sport. Then we have the long-term skill shortage list. the Silver Firm Practical Experience Work Visa, the Trafficking Victim Work Visa, and there have been a number of those, the Migrant Exploitation Protection Work Visa, and these are people that had in fact been exploited by employers in New Zealand. Then we've got skilled migrant category job search. And then we've got victims of family violence work visas, the South Island contribution, the work visa granted under Section 61, provided the applicant held another eligible visa within 6 months before being granted a Section 61. Look, without trying to be technical here, this related to people who had got themselves into an unlawful situation, be it that they hadn't realised their visa had expired. And then we have some critical purpose visitor visas. Now, at this stage, there are types of visas that will not be eligible, such as visitors, students, working holiday, and RSE, which is recognised seasonal employment visas. And these folk work predominantly in the horticulture and viticulture industries. So who are going to meet this? So the applicants must meet one of the 3 criteria as at the 29th of September 2021 and at the time of the application when it's being processed. So they've spent the last 3 years in New Zealand, totaling 821 days, if any time has been spent outside New Zealand, or paid at or above the median wage of $27 per hour, or be in occupations on one of the scarce list. And the scarce list, this is incredible. I mean, it covers a variety of occupations. It includes health, aged care, teachers, chefs, cooks, mechanics, electricians, construction, engineering, manufacturing roles, and they're just a few of the different types of occupations, but it's occupations that have been recognised that are really needed in New Zealand. The applicants must meet standard health and character requirements for residents. Now, what we say here is that the standard of health, when they have put in a medical for another application, if that medical was clear, we have been advised that no further medical check will be required. However, if there was a concern, then further information on health will be required. Immigration are still going to be confirming when they come out on their finite detail on this, but this is the advice we have received. And the same with character requirements. So if you've had a completely clear police clearance for when you came into this country, you won't need to apply again. But if you've never submitted a character requirement from your overseas country of citizenship, or where you have been visiting for the requirements, look, you are going to be needing to provide a police clearance from the overseas country. Also be aware that if you have committed any misdemeanors while being in New Zealand, you must declare it. Immigration will find out. Now, things to note, immigration are really wise that people are going to be so desperate to get this particular type of residence, and they want to fit under one of these criteria. So this means that there's going to be extra scrutiny placed on applications, and particularly so where people have changed positions or the wages. Now, people are suddenly asking for their employers to increase their wages up to the $27 an hour and getting them to backdate employment agreements, etc. Look, you are going to have to provide a lot of extra information on this, They're going to be wanting to see how you are in fact paid. Are you paid in arrears? Are you paid part in arrears or part ahead? And they're going to be looking at your IRD records, and they want to be seeing, because these applications are going to take approximately 12 months for processing, and they're going to be wanting to see that you are in fact continuing to receive the evidence of $27 per hour or greater. So you must be honest here, because they will find out. Now, good thing further for you, there's going to be no age requirement. There's a lot of relief over this, because we've got some really talented people here who haven't been able to meet the age requirement for residence in the past, which was the cutoff point of 65, but now it's not going to be required. Nor are you going to have to produce evidence of your English language skills. And I can hear another big sigh of relief for these migrants, because I know myself, I've come across so many highly skilled people who would not have met the English language requirement, but are doing a really good job in this country. So I'm thrilled to bits for you. Now, the applications are going to be submitted online, and it's going to be making it easier and quicker for Immigration New Zealand to look at and process. And they're going to be opened in 2 different phases. So the first phase opens on the 1st of December 2021, and it's for those people who have active skilled residence applications or expressions of interest in the system and have dependents aged 17 or older. Now, you may wonder, what's the rationale behind the young dependents of 17 or older? This is something I have fought quite strongly on. Those young people have not been able to go to work nor go to university without the parents paying international fees. They haven't been able to get on with their lives. They've been encouraged to be able to sit around at home, and it's been totally cruel. And at last, the government is doing something about it. So I'm grateful, I really am. Now, the applications will close for this particular type of one-off visa on the 31st of July 2022. So it'll be open for 7 months only. Processing times are expected to be less than 12 months, with the majority much faster. Now, what I also want to make you aware of is that while you are submitting your application, and I do suggest that, look, don't just sail ahead and do it. Be sure of your facts, your details, so you don't muck it up. We are doing assessments to see how people fit in, but you need to be aware that you must maintain your lawful presence in New Zealand during the time of the residence being processed. So one of the things that immigration has done, they've actually introduced a streamlined processing for those requiring new essential skills temporary visas. Now, the streamlining process, the conditions are that you remain with the same employer, the same role, and the same location. And this streamlining process means that you, the employer, does not have to advertise the job again. So that will be a relief for you. Now, the employer accreditation, please remember, those employers who hold this employer accreditation and been able to give work to residence visas to your new migrant staff, you must make sure that any of the workers you wish to support have their applications lodged on or before 31 October 21, because after that, you won't be able to make use of that with new people. Now, while the new 2021 residence visa. It's going to give a lot of certainty for your current workforce in New Zealand. It does not cover the current labour shortages in New Zealand with the border closed. Now, there is the option to bring workers into New Zealand as critical workers. We're doing a number of these. And the bar is set very high for these critical workers while the border is shut. And the most common categories are the critical workers and their health workers and those with unique experience, technical or specialist skills, not readily available and obtainable in New Zealand. Now, they could be working in other places, but they could be perfectly happy working where they are. So you've got a good case to justify this. So it's those that will bring a significant wider benefit, and it can be to the national or regional economy. So look, employers, take a look at this and just think, the gap that you have, is the person that you're wanting going to make a significant benefit? Because it's all about building a case. And we can, in fact, talk you through that. So the managed isolation updates, what a headache. For those coming into New Zealand, they're still required to undertake the mandatory 14 days in managed isolation and quarantine. The MIQ booking system, which we know has all been updated, and rooms are being released at set times. But this is inhumane, once again, this lottery system. And we're currently seeing the weekly room releases. And the only benefit about this, we actually do see how many people are actually queuing. There's got to be a better way. Now, there are two priority pathways to get workers urgent into managed isolation, and they're subject to meeting special criteria. And these two pathways are time-sensitive allocation. Now, this time-sensitive, these are requests for workers travelling to New Zealand to undertake really time-sensitive tasks in specified areas of work that's going to have significant consequences if not completed. So you must get the support of the relevant agency. But I mean, an example of this has been when you've got special equipment that needs to be installed or upkeep of it, or it's on production lines. We've got a case at the moment where it relates to the production of toilet paper. And we're going to have a huge shortage of this. And so it's all about getting the people here that can do these jobs. And then we've got the emergency allocation. The emergency allocation requests, they're primarily for New Zealand citizens and residents, but there is a provision for those delivering a critical public or health and disability service that will result in significant harm or disruption to a large number of New Zealanders. Once again, we've had experience in using this. The bar is set high. It is possible to get through, but it's really looked at on a humanitarian basis, but it is possible. So look, thank you for listening. I hope you've had some benefit from that, but I'm open to questions.
Thank you so much, June. That was I found that really informative and very clear. There's a lot of information to get your head around, obviously, but thank you very much for that update. We do have a couple of questions, and I'm going to start off with where do you suggest employers or individuals go to get more information that might help them kind of understand their situation and their circumstance?
Well, I would say talk to us, Woburn International, myself, and you'll see on that last slide there. But you can also keep watching the website of immigration. But I know a lot of people give us feedback that it's too gobbledygook. So look, what we do is that people who are making contact, we do an assessment. We're not charging, we're doing an assessment, and we'll tell you if you will meet the requirements. So as though at least you've got some something to go by.
Fantastic. So the second question was, what do you recommend to employers about what they can do to support their staff or support people in their teams who are going through this process? What would be your advice to those employers on how they could support those people?
Well, what we're doing was we're actually sending out letters, and we are saying to employers, identify those on your payrolls who are in fact on temporary visas. That's key. That's the first things you need looking at. And you can be damn sure that a lot of your migrants will already be onto this and looking to see, well, do I meet requirements? And it is looking to look at their employment contracts, looking at their pay rates, looking at the jobs that they're actually doing. And it is talking to those people and giving them support. You see, many of these people have never been able to buy a house. We've had some people that have been in such desperate situations that their doctors have been ringing them up and saying, look, we can no longer include you on our list as a patient because your visa's running out. And they have been in desperate straits. So it's just checking that their visas are valid, when they're expiring, to make sure that they are kept up to date. That's paramount. But I'm happy to talk to them.
Okay, thank you. On that same theme, you did talk about the mental health and well-being of people going through this process and how difficult it has been for some of these individuals and families. And certainly when I've been talking to employers over the last few weeks, they have talked about a number of the stories about their teams. Is there anywhere that people in this situation could go and get help and support for their mental health and well-being? What would you recommend for that area?
This is one of the things I touched on, in the fact that so many of these people have been too scared to go to their doctors in case it appears on their medical records. They do have to talk to people. They need to talk to people that they trust. They need to talk to people that really do care about them. And I don't want these people to be put in that vulnerable situation that they think they go to their doctor because the doctor is the best person to go to. But if they do have church affiliations, the churches could be useful, talking to the pastor. But I think it really, colleagues, I mean, look, even in our own industry, we have people whose businesses have started to dry up. And as much that they haven't been receiving migrant inquiries coming through. It's been the absolute opposite for us. But nevertheless, and we're giving the advice that please talk to colleagues, find people that you can relate to and share your feelings. I know that can be quite hard for many guys. Females seem to be more able to be like that, but I do suggest you've got to find someone to talk to. But if you can go to a doctor, then do so. But don't bottle it up. You've got to talk.
Fantastic advice. Thank you, June. And look, the final question relates to the numbers, I guess, of people coming through this process. What are your expectations around the time it will take for individuals to have their applications processed and change their visa status?
Well, look, there's a couple of things I'd like to add in here. Firstly, if you have got people who have in fact got residence applications already lodged, leave them. Don't do anything about it. Just leave them. But do apply for this new type of the 2021 new residents. You can have as many different applications with immigration in at one time. It does not upset your existing application, and you're just covering yourself beautifully. Now, with regard to how long it's going to take, look, we've got We're waiting with bated breath for more information to come out. I'm fortunate that I belong to the immigration reference group, and I do get prior information about what's going on. But they do apply a code of secrecy around us, but it is advantageous. They are telling us that it's going to take up to 12 months, and it could be sooner. My concern is, and it's already been raised, is that Immigration New Zealand has a huge shortage of staff. And it's how they're going to handle this with all the new changes that are planned for coming on next year. And those new changes relate to the reset, the changes with regard to introducing the new accreditation for employers. It also relates to the investors. They're modifying how that category is going to work. And then to have this going on, we're going to watch with interest, but just get your application in, and you've got nothing to lose, you've got everything to gain.
Fantastic. Just out of interest, is there a cost associated with putting in that additional application for this new visa? Or
Absolutely.
Right.
Look, immigration is trying to make some money. They've borrowed huge amounts from Treasury. Yes, there will be. Now, what they have given an indication of is that if you've already got a residence application in, they are considering offsetting the costs against this new one that's coming through. They haven't released what it will be, but they have said that it could well possibly be the cost of the second stage for the government fees, which has been around 2,500. But that confirmation is still to come out, and we're expecting to hear that early November. But there are fees.
Okay, great. Well, that's all we've got in terms of questions, June. I'd really like to. I've been fascinated by this information and the story you've told. There's obviously a lot of work to do, and it sounds like people can reach out to you if they still have questions, which seems like a great avenue to access more information. I'd just like to say thank you so much for your information and advice today, June. It's been, as I say, it's been really valuable. I'm sure the people watching today and our members will value this information significantly. And to our listeners, really thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this webinar. I hope you found it interesting. Here at the Chamber of Commerce in the Hutt Valley, we're here to help businesses be successful and advocate for them. And so bringing people like June to speak about these sorts of things is part of the work we do, and it's valuable for the employers that we represent. So if you need further assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at the Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce. You'll find my email address on our website. So thank you for your time today, and thank you, June, again for a very informative and very useful webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.